Okay, today we're going to learn how to divide decimals. Dividing decimals is very, very similar to dividing whole numbers. We're just going to add a couple steps to it. All right? So let's get started. So before we get started dividing decimals, we divided whole numbers and decimals already, right? So today we're going to take this a step further and we're going to divide decimals by decimals. So if you can go ahead on your whiteboards and do these two problems, we'll go over them in just a second. Okay, so we started doing this last week, all right, and we're going to ignore the decimal the whole time that we're dividing. It's not going to be until after we're finished that we're going to do something with the decimal, correct? Correct? Okay, so we're going to look at 12 divided by 2. We can't do it, right? Or 2 divided by 12, I should say. We can't do it. 27 divided by 12. How many times? What times 12 will get us close to 27? 2. So 2 times 12 is 24. And we subtract that, which gives us 3. We bring down the 6, which gives us 36, right? So what times 12 equals 36? 3. That's 36. We subtract it. We have no remainder. The decimal goes straight up from where it was. So it's not 23 as our quotient is not 23. Our quotient is 2 3/10. Right? So we go over to the next one. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. 1 times 8 is 8. We subtract it. That's 0. We bring down the 3. 3 divided by 8 is 0. 0 times 8 is 0. We subtract it. That's 3. We bring down the 2. We have 32. 4. 4 times 8 is 32. And that gives us a remainder of 0. Our decimal goes straight up. So it's not 104. It's 10 4/10. Okay? Now, I know that you guys want a little bit more practice. So I have 3 more problems for you to work on. On your whiteboards, complete these 3. All right, so we're going to divide all these. So the first thing I'm going to do is rewrite the problem so I can actually do it. All right, so I have my pen selected. So 44.55 divided by 11. Okay, so can 4 be divided by 11? No. 44 divided by 11?
Yes.
When what's 4? So that's 44. So that's going to give me 0. Well, it's not. We need to write 0. So I bring down my 5. Can 5 be divided by 11? No. So what goes up here? 0. So I bring down my other 5. 55 divided by 11? What is it? 5. 5 times 11 is 55. And I'll move this later so we can read this problem. So I subtract that, it's 0. Decimal goes straight up. So it's not 405, it is 4 500. Okay? Let me move this so we can do the rest of these. Alright. Sorry, the answer's above number 3 there, but that's the best that I'm going to be able to do right now. Alright, so then we come over here, same thing. I can't do a division problem this way, so I'm going to rewrite it. So we have 6 96/100 divided by 6. 6 divided by 6 is
1.
Bring down my 9. 9 divided by 6 is
1.
Bring down my 6. 36 divided by 6 is
6.
0. Decimal goes straight up. So it's 1 1600ths. Okay? Now, Enrico studied for 15 6/10 hours over 4 days. He studied about the same amount each day. How much time did he study per day? So, this is a division problem. We have our total number of hours. So this is hours. Remember what we said, whenever we do a word problem, we always want to gather all of our information, right? So I have my hours. Now I have how many days. And then what do I want to find out? So study per day, right? And we know that he studied in hours. So we want hours per day. How would I solve that? How would I solve that? Divide those two numbers. Well, okay, so I'm going to divide 4 by 15 6/10. So you just told me yes, so that means that I would write it like this. Other way around. So I'm going to divide 15 6/10 by 4. Yes? All right. So you need to be very careful on how you say things because you just told me the problem backwards, right? So I'm going to divide 15 6/10 by 4. Can 1 be divided by 4?
No.
Can 15 be divided by 4?
Yes.
How many times does 4 go into 15?
3.
3 times 4 is?
12.
And we know that this works because when I subtract, this number is less than that number, correct?
Yes.
Now I bring down the 6. 36 divided by 4 is?
9.
And then we know that our decimal goes straight up. So 3 9/10. So how many hours? 3 9/10 hours. Very good. Okay. We're going to do a quick vocabulary review. We've been dividing for a little while. We've talked about all this stuff. But I think it's important that we get it fresh on your mind because we're going to be talking about things that we're going to do to the divisor. That if we do it to the divisor, we have to do it to the dividend as well. So our divisor. The divisor is the number of groups we're going to make. So how many groups are we going to make in this case? 32 groups, right? So we're going to make 32 groups. That's the divisor. So our divisor is the number of groups. Look, I'm being young and hip. I'm using hashtags. Before there were hashtags, they were number signs. All right. So the divisor is the number of groups. The dividend, which is the number on the inside here. What is the dividend?
The number
So this is the total number it's the total. So how many you started with? Right? So whenever you start a division problem, you have one group. This is how many, this is the total number in the original group. Right? Then our quotient, which is our answer. Right? But what would it be if we didn't want to call it our answer? If we didn't want to say, well, the quotient's the answer to a division problem. What is the quotient actually? If we were to take this, if we took 487 tiles, and we divided those tiles into 32 groups, what would 15 be? It is the answer, but that's not what we want to say. Yeah. Not how many we have left. We now have 32 groups of, so 15 is the number in each new group. Because remember, we said we started off, this is if we had one group. Now we took one group and broke it into 32 groups, and each one of those groups has 15. So if I had 487 pencils in a box, and I decided I'm going to put those in 32 boxes for my students in my classroom, each box would contain 15 pencils. Okay? And the last thing, the remainder, that's the number that's left that won't go in evenly to something. The remainder always has to be less than the divisor. If the remainder is larger than the divisor, it's not the remainder. You messed up someplace. Okay? Are we good? All right, so there's our vocabulary. All right, our first example today. It says Casey is 4 5/10 feet tall. Her brother Jerome is 6 7/5 feet tall. How many times taller is Jerome than Casey? So we're going to find 6 7/5 divided by 4 5/10. So they have us multiplying 4 5/10 by 10 to make 45, and then multiplying 6 7/5 by the same number to make it 67 5/10. Okay? I'm going to make this very simple for you. We know that every time we multiply something by 10, it moves the decimal one place to the right. Right? Because we've multiplied decimals by the power of 10. Right? So, what I'm going to tell you is, whatever you do, what was this number called again? What is this number called again? Whatever I do to the divisor, I have to do to the dividend. So, how many times do they show you moving the decimal here? How many places? One place, right? So if I move that decimal one place, I have to move this decimal one place. Okay? So you can see they moved it from in between the 4 and the 5 to here, and in between the 6 and the 7 to here. Once you do that, it's identical to the last thing that we've been doing, because now I'm dividing a decimal by a whole number. Okay? So now we can go through and we can say, okay, 45, 6 cannot be divided by 45, but 67 can be. 67 divided by 45 is 1. That's 45. 7 minus 5 is 2. 6 minus 4 is 2. 225. Okay. 5, right? Thinking 5. Let me see if I'm right. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22. Subtract this out, I get 0. So it's 1 5/10. See, the decimal still just goes straight up. Okay? So Jerome is 1 5/10 times taller than Casey. Now, so our new division rule. The only real new rule that we have is that we're going to take the decimal that's in this number, the decimal that's in our divisor, and we're going to move it to the right until our divisor is a whole number. Then we're going to take the decimal that is in our dividend, and we're going to move it to the right until we've done it the same number of times that we move the decimal in our divisor. So if I move the decimal twice in the divisor, how many times do I move it in the dividend? Twice. All right? Once I've done that, everything else is the same as what we've been doing. So, to check our answer, we're going to multiply decimals. Remember, when we multiply decimals, we don't have to line up the decimals. We just multiply it out, and then we count the number of decimal places. And then we put that number of decimal places in our answer, right? So we're going to multiply this out. Yeah, I don't know why they did it like this, but whatever. So we're going to ignore that. So 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7, right? We need a placeholder. 4 times 5 is 20. Look at that, I already had 2 up here. Awesome. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. I add this together. 5, 7, 6. 1. 1. Add those together. I need 2 decimal places. So 6 and 75/100ths. Let's check it out. Our answer right here. It says find 6 and 75/100ths times divided by 4 and 5/10. So 6 and 75/100ths was the number that we were missing. 4 and 5/10, 1 and 5/10, 4 and 5/10, 1 and 5/10, 6 and 75/100ths. So we're good. Our answer was right. All right. So we're going to do another one. We're going to find 6/100ths divided by 1 and 5/10. Now, we're going to ignore all the decimals until we're finished. There is going to be a difference now, though. Okay, we can see here. We move it once, right? So now I have 15 divided by 6/10. Or 6/10 divided by 15, sorry. I said it backwards after I told you guys not to. Apologize. So I have 6/10 divided by 15, right? So that's what we have over here. Now, what did we say that we can do with a decimal at the end of a decimal problem that will never change the value of the number? So I can add as many zeros as I want, huh? As long as they're after the decimal. So when you're dividing these, if you have to add zeros, that's okay. Right? Because 6/10 is the same as 60/100ths. I can put another 0. I can put zeros all the way across this. That is still 6/10. Alright? So it doesn't matter how many zeros you have coming after it. Okay? So now we're going to go 0 divided by 15. Can we do it? No, so it's 0. 6 divided by 15. What times 15 equals 6? 0. So 0 times 15 is 0. 6. Subtract 0 is 6. I'm going to add a 0. They added this 0. Bring it down. 60 divided by 15.
4.
Jezebel, I see that you're already up there. What's 60 divided by 15? 4. 4 times 5 is 20. I put my 0 down here. Regroup my 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. 60 minus 60 is 0. So, then you're going to place the decimal into your quotient, or the answer. Straight up. Boom. So I have 4/100ths. Okay? And they're telling you, remember that word? Remember I told you that's an important word? Annexing zeros. What does it mean?
Yes.
That means that you can add all these zeros and it changes nothing. Okay? So you can add zeros as much as you need to. See right here, it says as needed. If you need 1, give yourself 1. If you need 2, give yourself 2. I doubt that you'll need 3. Okay? 15 is not going to 6, so write a 0 in the hundreds place, and so on and so forth. We solved all this, so that's fine. Now they're going to make us check our answer right there. 4 hundredths times 1 and 5 tenths equals 6 hundredths. All right? So here we go. We got some answers written down for you guys already. So you can see that everything that we've done so far is exactly what they wanted us to do. See, Jezebel, your answer was right. 4 tenths. 4 hundredths. There you go. Boom. All right. So here we go. They only have one problem designated as guided practice. We'll do 2. Because I want to make sure that you guys understand how I want you to show your homework. They want you to check your answer using multiplication, correct? Okay. So, first things first. They wrote a number sentence that's using division, and it's a linear equation, and linear equations are hard to work with, so we're going to rewrite it. So they rewrote the problem down here. After they rewrote it, they realized, hey, I have a decimal. Can't have a decimal. My divisor cannot be a decimal, correct? So I need to move that decimal over how many times so it'll be a whole number? Once. So if I move that one once, I have to move this one once. So that's where my new decimal is. So I have 68 and 9 tenths divided by 13. First things first. Can 6 be divided by 13? Can 6 be divided by 13? No. Can 68 be divided by 13? 68 is larger than 13, isn't it? So there has to be a number that multiplied by 13 is close to 68, if not 68 exactly. Which number would that be? What? My boy over here says it's 5. Let's find out. 1. So 5 times 3 is?
15.
Regroup my 1. 5 times 1 is?
5.
Plus 1?
6.
That's pretty close. Let's subtract it and find out. 8 subtract 5 is?
3.
6 subtract 6 is? 0. I bring down my 9. Because 3 is less than 13, correct? Alright, so we're good. I bring down the 9. I now have 39 and 13. So 39 divided by 13. So what times 13 equals 39?
3.
Mr. Haynes?
3.
3, Mr. Haynes. Let's see. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 1 is? 9 subtract 9 is 0. 3 subtract 3 is 0. So that's my answer. 5 and 3 tenths. Now, we need to check using multiplication. And you will check using multiplication. I want you to check using multiplication for 2 reasons. 1, you'll check your answer. 2, there's nothing wrong with practicing multiplying decimals. Okay? So you're going to get division practice today and multiplication practice. So, in order to check my answer, I'm going to multiply my quotient, 5 and 3 tenths, by my divisor, 1 and 3 tenths. Okay? And I should end up with my dividend. Hopefully. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 5 is 15. 1 times 3. Oh, I need a placeholder, right? Don't forget your placeholder. Boom. Placeholder. Okay? 1 times 3 is? 1 times 5 is?
5.
Add that together. 9, 8, 6. 1 decimal place here. 1 decimal place here. I add those together. I need how many? 2 decimal places. 1, 2. 6 and 89 hundredths. So my answer is correct. Alright? Now I told you, I will do one more for you, and then you guys will be on your own to finish your independent practice. So, I'm going to do number 2. Actually, rather than myself do number 2, I'm going to give you a second to go through your problems, look at them, and decide which one you think is going to be the most difficult, and that's the one that I will show you. I do not want you to do any of them yet. I want you to pick one before that. Okay? When you have a problem picked, raise your hand. Fantastic. So after some deliberation and you guys working together and deciding which problem you wanted me to see, you guys chose number 7. So here's number 7. All right. Number 7 is already laid out for me, huh? Hey, as soon as you guys see what I'm going to do at first, then you're going to look at me and you're going to go, I don't want that problem. So, my divisor has to be a whole number. Is that correct? So, Isaiah, how many times do I have to move my decimal to have a whole number in my divisor? It's on your paper. Number 7. How many times does the decimal need to move to have a whole number? Don't know. Yes?
Twice.
Twice. Because it has to go from here to here. Right? So that's 1, 2. So now I have 4. So if I moved it twice there, how many times do I have to move it here? Twice, right? Boom. So it's in between the 2's. So now I have 3, 82, and 2/10. Because I moved the decimal twice in my divisor, I have to move it twice in my dividend. Okay? Now once I do that, the division problem is actually pretty simple, huh? 3 cannot go into 4. 38 divided by 4 is 9. 9 times 4 is 36. Subtract that. That's 2. Bring down my 2. 22 divided by 4 is 5. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract that. That's 2. Bring down my 2. 22 divided by 4 is 5 times 4 is 20. I have a 2. What did we call that thing that we do?
Remainder.
No. No remainder. Remember it said to do something? What was it called? Annex zeros as needed. So let's add a 0. $20 divided by 4 is? 5 times 4 is? 20. So that's no remainder anymore, right? Take my decimal and move it straight up. So my answer is 95 and 55 hundredths. This says check using multiplication, correct? So I need to take my 95 and 55 hundredths. And I need to multiply that by. Okay? Not by 4. I have to multiply by 400ths because the number of decimal places is going to be very important at the end here. Remember, I don't care about the decimals right now. Decimals do not matter. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 5 is 20 plus 2 is 22. 4 times 5 is 20 plus 2 is 22. 4 times 9 is 36 plus 2 is 38. Count my decimal places. I have 2 here. I have 2 here. 2 plus 2 is, I have 4. 1, 2, 3. I have 3 and 822 thousandths because I can get rid of that 0. So this is equal to that, which makes my answer correct. Yes? I did number 7. Are you guys good to go? All right. Huh? So, we can divide a decimal by a whole number. We've done that already, correct? So the only difference between what we are doing today and what we have done in the past is what? We have to move the decimal before we start. That's it. That is the only difference. So if your divisor has 1 decimal place, you need to move the decimal 1 time in your divisor and 1 time in your dividend. And then divide them. So the only difference between what we're doing today and what we did last week was that we have to move our decimal before we start. So I will set up your first one for you. So we have 0 and 3/10 divided by 66 hundredths. I cannot have a decimal here, which means I need to move it. Now it's a whole number because the decimal comes after the 3, right? But if I did that here, I have to do the same thing here. Now I can divide it. That is the only difference between what we're doing today and what we did last week. Yes, ma'am?
On number 3, it shows that you can't move the decimal anymore.
Oh, no it doesn't. Remember what are we going to have to do? Because we have to move it twice here, you're right. So there's our 2.
So do we have to add a 0?
Yep, we have to annex a 0. We move it once, we have to annex a 0 in order to move it again. Okay, don't forget you can annex the zeros. Alright? Okay, you have about 5 minutes to work on your own.